This is one of 5 disease outbreaks the burrito chain has had since July. The CDC says this latest bacteria has a different genetic fingerprint.
You walk into a fast food joint or casual restaurant and feel empowered by the menu. Burgers, salads, chicken wraps, maybe even a veggie bowl. It feels like choice, like you're in control. But what if I told you that almost every option on that menu came from the same place, the same factory, and in many cases, the same questionable supply chain? You see, in the world of industrial food, variety is an illusion. Behind those glossy menu boards, branded wrappers, and catchy slogans lies a carefully orchestrated system, engineered not for your health, not even for your taste, but for profit. Whether you're ordering a grilled chicken sandwich or a so-called healthy salad, chances are the ingredients pass through the same freezing facility, the same chemical treatment, the same bulk processing center, before being delivered in the same plastic bags to 6 different chains. Because here's the truth, most major restaurants don't actually cook food anymore. They assemble it. What you think is grilled might be painted with grill marks. What you assume is freshly chopped could be months old, vacuum sealed, and soaked in preservatives you can't even pronounce. The vegetables, often bleached and reheated. The chicken, glued together from different parts using something called transglutaminase, aka meat glue. That sizzling burger patty, it might have been thawed 3 days ago and microwaved just before it hit your plate. And it's not just the food, it's the story they're selling you, the illusion that you're choosing better, that one place is healthier, more ethical, more wholesome than the rest. But in reality, you're eating from the same trough, different uniforms, same playbook. In the next chapters, we're going to expose 6 of the biggest restaurant chains in the country, what's really in their food, where it comes from, and the secrets their ads won't tell you. From hormone-laced meats to chemical-laced fries. From natural flavorings that are anything but, to recycling expired ingredients under new names. This isn't about fear, it's about truth. You have a right to know what's fueling your body and what's slowly destroying it. And after this, you might never look at that drive-thru or that smiling waiter the same way again. So buckle up. The illusion is about to shatter. You walk into a Subway and the smell hits you first. Warm bread, spices, something vaguely Italian. It's comforting, familiar. You're told you're making a smarter choice. Eat fresh, they say, but what you're really eating is closer to a lab experiment than a deli sandwich. Let's start with the bread. In 2014, food activists uncovered that Subway's bread contained a chemical called azotocarbonamide, a substance used to make yoga mats and rubber soles more flexible. Yes, yoga mats. It's a dough conditioner meant to keep the bread soft and stretchy for mass production. But when heated, this chemical breaks down into urethane, a known carcinogen. Subway claimed they removed it after public outrage. But many chains across the globe still use similar additives, and it makes you wonder, if that slipped by, what else are they hiding? Then there's the tuna. A 2021 investigation by the New York Times sent Subway tuna samples to a lab. The result? No detectable tuna DNA. None. Subway fired back with denials, of course, but this wasn't the first time their ingredients raised questions, and it won't be the last. Their meats? Let's not call them fresh. Let's call them engineered. The sliced turkey, ham, roast beef, these are processed, preserved, dyed, flavored, and vacuum-packed for extended shelf life. Some are loaded with nitrates, others with artificial smoke flavoring and phosphates to enhance texture. All designed not to nourish you, but to last longer, cost less, and look appealing after weeks in storage. And that's the real recipe: science over sustenance, marketing over truth. You think you're eating clean, but behind that sneeze guard and smile, you're being fed a carefully designed illusion, one that's been optimized for profit at the cost of your health. And Subway isn't alone. We're just getting started. There are 5 more restaurants to go, and each one has secrets even more disturbing than the last. Chipotle wears a halo. Brown bags, rustic fonts, buzzwords like locally sourced and organic. It's the poster child for ethical eating in the fast food world. A place where guacamole is extra and the guilt is supposed to be less. But behind the warm lighting and earthy tones is a story that's anything but wholesome. Between 2015 and 2018, Chipotle faced a string of foodborne illness outbreaks across the United States. E. coli, norovirus, salmonella. Hundreds of customers sickened, dozens hospitalized. One outbreak in Boston sent more than 140 people to the ER, and the culprit wasn't some shady meat supplier. It was freshness, or rather, the mishandling of it. Because freshness without discipline is a ticking time bomb. In one case, a single employee came to work sick and infected over 100 customers with norovirus. In another, cross-contamination in the kitchen allowed dangerous bacteria to spread from one ingredient to the next. And here's the kicker. Chipotle wasn't using artificial preservatives at the time. Their commitment to clean food meant shorter shelf lives, faster spoilage, and higher risk. Yet the marketing never flinched. The commercials kept rolling, the burritos kept selling, and the public kept believing that real ingredients meant real safety. But reality isn't wrapped in foil. It's hidden in the kitchen, where undercooked chicken, improperly washed lettuce, and untrained staff can turn a $10 bowl into a public health hazard. Even after being fined $25 million by the Department of Justice, the largest ever related to food safety, Chipotle continued to expand, and the public, with short memories and long cravings, forgave them. But next time you take a bite, remember this. Fresh can be dangerous when corners are cut. Healthy can still make you sick when systems fail. And no amount of cilantro lime rice can cleanse a culture that values speed over safety. Chipotle wants you to believe in integrity, but their history tells a different story, one where deception is organic and outbreaks are just part of the business. Olive Garden promises Italy, Tuscany, family, a warm table overflowing with pasta, laughter, and maybe just one more breadstick. But what you're actually getting isn't old-world charm. It's industrialized dining on a corporate assembly line. Step into the kitchen of an Olive Garden, and you won't find a chef tossing handmade fettuccine or simmering tomato sauce from scratch. What you'll find is boiling bags, pre-cooked sauces, sealed, frozen, and reheated on site. Dishes built from pre-portioned processed ingredients. It's not a kitchen. It's a glorified staging area. And that famous Alfredo? It's not whisked together by Nonna with a block of aged Parmesan and a loving hand. It's mass-produced in a factory, preserved, and shipped to every franchise in a vacuum-sealed pouch, ready to be microwaved and plated with precision. This isn't a restaurant. It's a performance. Even the beloved breadsticks, hailed as the crown jewel of comfort, come with a hidden price. Coated in margarine, laced with preservatives, flavored with artificial butter compounds, and made from refined white flour that spikes your blood sugar like a dessert. It's not indulgence, it's manipulation, an addictive, chemically engineered appetizer designed to keep you reaching for more, and they don't stop there. Olive Garden's endless pasta bowl isn't about generosity. It's about cheap carbs and manufactured addiction. It costs them next to nothing and keeps you coming back for empty calories masquerading as value. In the boardrooms of Darden restaurants, the corporate parent of Olive Garden, efficiency trumps authenticity. Profit outweighs heritage. And every shortcut is dressed up in basil leaves and mozzarella melt. So the next time you dip a breadstick into a plastic ramekin of marinara, ask yourself, is this really Italian? Or is it just American fast food dressed in a tablecloth and a fake accent? Because Olive Garden doesn't serve Italy. It serves illusion, packaged, processed, and plated to fool your taste buds into thinking you've tasted tradition, when in reality, you've only swallowed strategy. You walk into Buffalo Wild Wings for the thrill, the roar of the game, the endless rows of flat screens, the sizzling plates of wings tossed in sauces with names like Blazin' and Honey BBQ. But what if the most dangerous thing in that room isn't the opposing team, it's what's sitting on your plate? Because behind the bravado of bold flavors and all-American energy lies a menu built on cost-cutting, chemical flavoring, and one big illusion. Let's start with the wings themselves. You assume they're just that, chicken wings. But in many locations, you're actually eating pressed, boneless chunks that aren't even from the wing. They're a slurry of processed white meat, bound with additives and shaped into familiar bites. Resembling wings? Sure. But resembling food? Barely. Then there's the flavor. Intense, addictive, unforgettable. But not because of real spices or traditional cooking methods. No, the secret ingredient is a lab coat. Buffalo Wild Wings leans hard on MSG, monosodium glutamate, and other flavor enhancers like disodium, inosonate, and artificial smoke. These are compounds designed to hijack your taste buds and light up your brain's pleasure centers. They don't just make food taste good, they make it impossible to stop. But that's only the beginning. Where does the chicken even come from? Sourcing transparency is murky. What we do know is that many fast casual chains, Buffalo Wild Wings included, source from massive industrial farms where birds are raised in tight, unsanitary conditions, fed growth stimulants, and often injected with saline to inflate their size and weight. That meaty texture, it's not nature, it's manipulation. And the sauces, the real stars of the menu, are chemical cocktails. Most are a mix of corn syrup, artificial colors, preservatives like potassium sorbate, and lab-derived flavorings. The sweet heat, it's synthetic. The smokiness, engineered. The garlic, more likely a powder than a clove. Buffalo Wild Wings sells adrenaline, excitement, a good time with friends. But what they're really serving is a product built to stimulate, not nourish. So ask yourself the next time you lick sauce from your fingers, is this food or just the illusion of flavor? Because at Buffalo Wild Wings, the real wild part isn't the sauce. It's how little you know about what you're actually eating. There's something nostalgic about IHOP. The warm smell of pancakes, the colorful syrups at every table, the sizzling of bacon drifting through the air like a morning lullaby. It feels like home, like comfort. But peel back the menu, and you'll find that this iconic breakfast haven may be serving up something far more unsettling. Let's start with the syrup. That little pitcher of golden sweetness you drizzle over stacks of pancakes. It's not maple, not even close. In fact, IHOP's old-fashioned syrup contains zero actual maple syrup. It's a concoction of high fructose corn syrup, artificial flavoring, and caramel color. It's a chemical masquerade designed to mimic the real thing but engineered in a lab. And it's not just deceptive, it's dangerous. High fructose corn syrup has been linked to obesity, fatty liver disease, and increased risk of diabetes. That sweet pour over your breakfast, it's more science experiment than syrup. Now, take a look at the eggs. You'd assume they're cracked, fresh in the back, right? Think again. Many IHOP locations use pre-mixed liquid eggs, a blend of eggs, preservatives like citric acid, and stabilizers designed to prolong shelf life and maintain color. What you're getting isn't the simplicity of scrambled eggs. It's a laboratory-approved formula. Fluffy on the plate, but fortified with additives your body was never meant to digest. And it doesn't stop there. Pancakes, those warm, buttery clouds of joy, are often made with batter that contains emulsifiers, leavening agents, and artificial flavors. That buttery taste, often margarine or butter-flavored oils, that golden brown color, helped along by chemical browning agents. IHOP sells comfort, familiarity, a childhood memory, but the ingredients behind the scenes tell another story, a story of shortcuts, synthetic flavors, and processed convenience. It's not about real food, it's about replicating the experience of real food while cutting costs and boosting shelf life. Because at IHOP, breakfast might be served all day. But transparency? That's not on the menu. The most dangerous thing on your plate isn't the calories. It's the illusion that you're eating something real. Applebee's sells itself as neighborhood dining, a cozy, familiar place where the menu feels endless and the comfort food abundant. But behind the warmth of those wood-paneled booths and the sizzle of skillet fajitas lies a very different reality. One not made from scratch, but from steam bags, flash-frozen entrees, and a microwave working overtime in the back. The truth is, much of what's served at Applebee's doesn't begin its life in the kitchen. It begins in a factory, mass-produced, frozen, sealed in plastic, and shipped across the country. Steaks are pre-seasoned and vacuum-packed. Mashed potatoes come pre-mixed in a bag. Pasta dishes, reheated sauces. Burgers, often pre-cooked and flash-frozen before they even hit the grill. That molten spinach and artichoke dip? It was likely thawed in a plastic pouch just moments before it arrived at your table. Applebee's isn't alone in this, but what's alarming is how much of the menu is processed in this way. You're not paying for a chef's touch. You're paying for industrial food disguised as casual cuisine. And with that process comes the additives. Preservatives like sodium benzoate, flavor enhancers like disodium inosonate, coloring agents to mimic freshness, even when the food has traveled hundreds of miles and sat in a freezer for weeks. Then there's the sodium. Dish after dish, loaded with salt to preserve, to mask the blandness of frozen food, and to keep you coming back for more. Some entrees pack more than an entire day's worth of sodium in one plate. And we haven't even talked about the sauces, most of which are thickened with gums, syrups, and artificial flavors that give the illusion of richness, without the cost of real ingredients. The result? A menu that tastes comforting but delivers more chemicals than nutrients. Meals that feel indulgent but leave you sluggish, bloated, and craving more. Because when food is engineered to stimulate your taste buds instead of nourish your body, you're not eating, you're being fed. And the scariest part? Most people never question it, because the menu looks delicious, because the prices feel fair, because the illusion works. But at Applebee's, your neighborhood might be closer to a laboratory than a kitchen. You walk into your favorite restaurant expecting a hot meal, something fresh, something satisfying. But what you're really eating didn't start in that kitchen. It started in a warehouse, a truck, a factory line. And before it ever touched a skillet or cutting board, it was handled by a faceless network designed for one thing: profit over purity. Welcome to the invisible world of the industrial food supply chain. It's a system so massive, so entangled, that the chicken in your sandwich may have passed through half a dozen processing plants before it hit your plate. Flash frozen, injected with sodium phosphate, vacuum sealed in plastic. And that's just the beginning. Every major restaurant chain, Subway, Applebee's, Olive Garden, and beyond, relies on a handful of powerful food distributors. These companies, like Cisco and US Foods, dominate the supply chain. Their goal? To create food that lasts longer, travels further, and costs less. Not food that's cleaner, not food that's safer, and definitely not food that's good for you. To achieve this, ingredients are chemically preserved, pre-cooked, and packaged in ways that defy spoilage. Lettuce treated to stay green for weeks. Meats injected with fillers and stabilizers. Breads with dough conditioners and softeners meant to mimic fresh, even after months in storage. It's not a chef crafting your dish. It's a machine, a spreadsheet, a bottom line. Quality gets sacrificed for efficiency. Nutrients are replaced by synthetics. Flavor is engineered, not grown. And the illusion of variety? It's often the same supplier, the same ingredients, just arranged differently on the plate. What's worse, this entire system is propped up by secrecy. Restaurants don't want you to know where your food came from. Distributors don't want you to ask. And regulators? They're often looking the other way. Because when food is treated like a product, manufactured, preserved, shipped, and sold, it stops being nourishment and starts becoming inventory, labeled, tracked, and commodified, not for your health, but for someone else's quarterly earnings. That's the truth they don't want you to see, because if you did, you might not come back. What does flavor even mean anymore? In today's restaurants, it's not always what nature intended. It's what a lab designed. Behind the bold descriptions on your menu, fire-grilled, home-style, zesty, or buttery, is a catalog of chemicals engineered to trick your senses. Because when food is mass-produced, shipped across the country, and reheated in a microwave, real flavor gets lost. And that's where the science steps in. Preservatives like sodium benzoate and calcium propionate keep your food looking fresh, even when it's not. They're not there for your benefit. They're there to extend shelf life, to make sure the same meal can be served tomorrow, next week, or next month with no visible difference. But inside your body, these chemicals don't just disappear. Some are linked to inflammation, others to behavioral changes, and many are still being studied long after they were approved for use. Then come the artificial flavors, designed to mimic the taste of garlic, cheese, bacon, smoke. Not from real ingredients, from chemical compounds. They ignite your brain's pleasure centers, just like the real thing would. Sometimes stronger, but they bring nothing of value. No nutrients, no fiber, no fuel. Just stimulation. Texture enhancers like modified food starch, carrageenan, and gums give sauces their creaminess, breads their bounce, meats their juiciness. They create the illusion of quality. They mask the shortcuts. And when they're combined with emulsifiers and coloring agents, they make every dish look picture perfect, even if it's nutritionally empty. It's not just one ingredient. It's the accumulation, day after day, meal after meal, because these additives don't come with warning labels in restaurants. You won't see them printed on your menu next to the calorie count, but they're there, in the bun, in the sauce, in the side of mashed potatoes that tastes just like Grandma used to make. Only she didn't cook with dimethyl polisiloxane. The food industry calls this progress, but your body might call it poison, and by the time your taste buds know the difference, it might already be too late. They wore the uniforms, smiled for customers, followed the scripts. But when the cameras were off and the dining rooms quiet, some of them saw what the rest of us weren't meant to see. Behind every fast, casual brand image, every cheesy jingle and friendly server, there are workers trying to do their jobs in environments that don't always value safety or honesty or even cleanliness. And some of those workers chose to speak. One former Subway employee shared how tuna came in bags, gray, odorless paste that didn't resemble fish at all. We'd mix it with mayo until it looked right, he said, but some days it smelled like cat food. Another said the bread would arrive frozen, and if it thawed improperly, they were told to just bake it anyway. At Applebee's, an ex-line cook revealed how entire entrees were pulled from vacuum-sealed bags and microwaved directly on the plate. "We weren't chefs," she laughed bitterly. "We were button pushers. Everything was pre-cooked, even the steak." An IHOP server recalled watching a cook drop pancake batter on the floor and still scoop it back into the grill. "They said the heat kills the germs," she whispered, "but it made me sick to watch." At Chipotle, during one of the infamous norovirus outbreaks, an employee came forward claiming they were told to keep quiet about coworkers vomiting during shifts. "We didn't shut down, we didn't sanitize, we just kept serving." Moldy produce, expired sauces with relabeled stickers, raw chicken left out for hours. Workers who reported these things often found themselves ignored, or worse, fired, because admitting a problem means taking accountability. And for billion-dollar brands, image is everything. These aren't isolated stories, these are patterns, whispers turning into warnings. Because the truth is, when food is made for profit first and people second, those caught in the middle are the ones who suffer most. The workers, the customers, the families who thought they were getting a quick, harmless meal. But when the gloves come off and the whistleblowers step forward, the illusion starts to crack. And once you've heard what they've seen, you might never look at that menu the same way again. Made fresh. It's printed on napkins, whispered in commercials, promised in every smiling ad. But fresh doesn't always mean what you think it means. In fact, in the world of chain restaurants, fresh might be the biggest lie of all. That grilled chicken sandwich, cooked in a factory, vacuum-sealed, flash-frozen, and shipped across state lines. The only thing fresh about it is the moment they tossed it in the microwave. That bowl of creamy soup, poured from a plastic bag, pre-seasoned and pre-cooked weeks ago in a distant processing plant. All they did was heat it up in a metal cylinder and ladle it into your bowl. Even salads, the poster child for fresh food, aren't spared. Pre-cut greens shipped in nitrogen-flushed bags. Tomatoes ripened artificially in transport. Croutons made months ago and preserved with chemicals you can't pronounce. At Olive Garden, sauces are boiled in plastic bags and kept in warmers. At Applebee's, mashed potatoes arrive frozen, then whipped into something resembling homemade. And at IHOP, fresh, scrambled eggs often come from a carton, blended with stabilizers and preservatives to keep them perfect for hours. The illusion is everywhere. Prepared in-house doesn't mean made from scratch. It means reheated, rearranged, replated. And when restaurants get called out, they hide behind language, terms like freshly prepared or made to order, phrases that legally mean almost nothing. And the worst part? We've accepted it. We've grown used to factory flavor being passed off as authenticity because the menus still sound romantic, the plating still looks convincing, and the prices still too good to question. But real freshness has no shortcuts. It can't be frozen, trucked, and nuked into life. It has to be grown, touched, chopped, tasted by human hands, not machines. So next time you see fresh on a menu, pause. Ask yourself what that word is really selling you. Because when fresh is just another label slapped on a frozen reality, you're not eating food, you're eating fiction. You think you're making a choice, grabbing a quick bite, indulging just this once. But the truth is, the choice was made for you long before you walked through the door. Behind every sizzling plate, every golden fry, every perfectly seasoned bite, there's a science, a manipulation, a blueprint to hijack your brain. They call it hyperpalatability, a term you've probably never heard, but one that controls more of your diet than you realize. It's the deliberate combination of salt, sugar, fat, and chemical enhancers crafted to light up your brain's reward system like a fireworks display. It's why a single chip turns into a whole bag, why you crave the exact sweetness of a McFlurry, why that buttery breadstick from Olive Garden feels like comfort in every bite. These foods are engineered to override your satiety signals, to keep you eating even when you're full, even when you're sick. But it's not just about flavor, it's about memory, smell, texture, sound, the crunch of a chicken tender, the fizz of a cola, the soft melt of a processed cheese blend. These are sensory triggers, built to create food memories so powerful they bypass logic, bypass willpower, bypass everything. And it works. That's why returning to fast food after swearing it off feels like a guilty reunion. That's why children are drawn to it like bees to sugar. These aren't accidents, they're outcomes. Food scientists test thousands of flavor combinations, tweaking molecules until they hit what's called the bliss point, the perfect storm of pleasure and craving. Just enough to hook you, never enough to satisfy you. It's not addiction in the traditional sense. There's no nicotine, no drug, but it's a cycle, a loop, one that rewires your taste buds, resets your standards, and convinces your brain that fake food feels real. And once you're in, breaking free means more than skipping a drive-through. It means reclaiming your senses, reclaiming your power, reclaiming your plate. The seal of approval, the illusion of oversight, the comforting idea that someone, somewhere, is watching out for you. But when it comes to what's on your plate, the FDA isn't always the guardian you think it is. You see, there's a loophole baked into the system. It's called GRAS, generally recognized as safe. It means that companies can declare an ingredient safe without ever submitting it for formal FDA approval. All they need are a few experts, often paid by the company itself, to sign off. No long-term studies, no public accountability, no testing beyond what they decide is enough. That burger bun? It might contain azotocarbonamide, the same chemical used in yoga mats. That salad dressing, it could be hiding titanium dioxide, a whitening agent linked to gut inflammation. That soda? Aspartame, flagged by global health agencies for potential cancer risks. And yet, it's all allowed. It's all safe. Because the FDA's role isn't what you've been led to believe. It's reactive, not proactive. Ingredients are often presumed safe until proven otherwise. And even then, the bar for removal is high. Companies argue, lobbyists swarm, and years pass before anything changes. And when recalls do happen, they're buried, hidden behind technical jargon, quiet press releases, or limited batch numbers. Unless someone gets seriously ill, unless a scandal breaks, most of these issues never make it to your screen. What's worse, some of the most dangerous ingredients banned in Europe, Australia, or Japan are still freely used in American kitchens. Because here, profit protects poison, and industry influence writes the rules. The watchdogs have been muzzled, the warning labels softened, and the public trust exploited, again and again. So no, the FDA won't tell you what's really going on, but your body might, through inflammation, fatigue, hormonal imbalances, aches that don't go away, cravings that never end. And once you realize that silence is part of the design, you start listening a little closer. You start reading every label, and you begin to ask the question they don't want you to ask. If this is legal, what else is being hidden? You might think it's just a meal, just a quick bite on the go, a burger here, a stack of pancakes there, a night out at your favorite chain restaurant. But over time, those choices add up, and what they're adding isn't just calories, it's consequences. Let's start with your gut. Processed food doesn't nourish your microbiome, it assaults it. Artificial additives, emulsifiers, and preservatives disturb the delicate balance of bacteria in your intestines, weakening your immunity, triggering inflammation, and leaving you vulnerable to everything from IBS to autoimmune conditions. You're not just what you eat, you're what your gut can digest, absorb, and trust. And these meals, they're breaking that trust. Then there's fatigue, the kind that caffeine can't fix. Meals packed with sugar, seed oils, and lab-made flavorings cause massive insulin spikes followed by crashes that leave you drained, irritable, and foggy. You might call it burnout. Your body calls it survival. It's running on empty while pretending you're full. And what about your mind? The food industry doesn't just target your taste buds, it targets your brain chemistry. MSG and artificial sweeteners like aspartame can mess with neurotransmitters, affecting your mood, your memory, your ability to focus, anxiety, depression, brain fog. For some, these aren't just mental health issues, they're dietary responses. Obesity isn't a failure of willpower, it's the design of the system. Hyperpalatable foods are engineered to override your satiety signals. You're eating, but your brain doesn't get the memo to stop. And all that excess? It stores, it swells. It weighs not just on your body, but on your soul. This isn't fear-mongering. It's the feedback loop you've been caught in. A loop created by flavors that trick, packaging that lies, and ingredients that hijack your biology. And while you may not feel it today, the damage is cumulative, subtle, creeping, until one day, it isn't. Until one day, your body starts asking the questions your mind tried to ignore. Where did this come from? Who made it? And why do I feel this way every time I eat? You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be awake. Because once you see it, once you understand how the system is built, you can start choosing your way out. Reclaiming your plate doesn't mean giving up everything. It means taking back control. Start with awareness. Read the labels. Question the menu. That creamy dressing? It might have more chemicals than a science lab. That grilled chicken? It could be pumped full of saline and artificial smoke flavor. When you stop taking food at face value, you start taking your health seriously. Cook at home more often, not every night, but enough that you know what's going into your body. Fresh ingredients, real fats, whole spices. These aren't luxuries, they're your defense. Even one home-cooked meal a day can start rewiring your taste buds, your metabolism, your relationship with food. Support local restaurants that prioritize sourcing and scratch-made cooking. They exist, and they're fighting the same uphill battle against big food, against big flavor, against the convenience addiction we've all been sold. Your dollars are votes. Cast them with intention. Don't be fooled by buzzwords like natural, artisan, or farm fresh. Marketing is camouflage. The truth lives in the fine print, the sodium content, the preservatives, the vague spices that hide a laundry list of lab-made additives. Start asking questions. Where does this meat come from? What's in that sauce? Why does this bread last 3 weeks without molding? You don't have to know all the answers. Just be the kind of person who refuses to stop asking. And maybe, most importantly, teach the next generation. Show your kids, your friends, your community that there's power in knowing, power in choosing. Because the more of us that wake up, the weaker their grip becomes. You have more influence than you think. Not just over your own plate, but over what gets put on shelves, onto menus, into school lunches. The illusion only works if we keep buying it. But you're not buying it anymore. You're breaking the spell. One bite, one question, one choice at a time. You've seen behind the curtain. You've walked through the kitchens, heard the stories they hoped would stay hidden, unwrapped the layers of lies, marketing magic, and industrial shortcuts baked into every bite. So now the choice is yours. You can pretend you didn't hear it, didn't feel that drop in your gut when you realized your favorite dish is just a microwave delusion. Or you can act, not out of fear, but power. If this video opened your eyes, even a little, share it. Comment with your own food horror story. Subscribe to make sure they never silence voices like ours, because this isn't just one video, it's a movement, a rebellion against the chemicals on our plates, the corporations who call it dining, and the silence that keeps us sick. We are not here to scare you. We're here to wake you up, because the real danger isn't what's in the food. It's that nobody's talking about it. But we are. We are the question that big food doesn't want you to ask. We are the flashlight in their darkest factory corners. We are the story they hoped you'd never hear. We are Evil Food Secrets. And we're just getting started. Hit that subscribe button, drop a comment below, and share this video with someone who still thinks it's just food. Until next time, stay curious, stay loud, and never stop reading the label.